streets are talking. You are now listening to The Box Out, tri-state area basketball talk at its best. And now your hosts, Kahlil Thomas and Jason Cordner. Let's get it.
BK and the world. This is The Box Out here on the One Podcast Network YouTube channel. My name is Mikal Thomas. Joining me in just a few minutes will be Jason Cordner from Brooklyn, New York. It is draft night. It is our annual draft extravaganza. And I will say this. This is a night that myself, Jason, we look forward to because it's one of those nights where we can sit and we kind of bullshit about the NBA draft. And we're excited about it normally. We're excited about usually the first 5, 6, 7 picks. We're really hyped up about it, and a lot to talk about, and the storylines, and where the Knicks going to draft, who are they going to draft, the Nets, who are they going to draft. I will warn you ahead of time. Tonight, usually we stay on here and we rock out for like hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. I cannot guarantee that tonight. The draft tonight is not that interesting. And you hate to say it. You hate to kind of put these young men out here who's going to be drafted tonight and who worked really hard to get to the NBA and to get to the pinnacle of their basketball careers. But this is not an interesting draft by any means. Going into it, and as Jason and I did our prep work, and we looked at who's in it and who's the names and blah, blah, and there really weren't any standouts. I said this last week on the show. Ryan Russillo on the Bill Simmons podcast, he's a man about town who talks to a lot of different GMs and a lot of different people. And a GM, an anonymous GM, because no one puts names on things anymore because everything's anonymous, told Ryan Russillo that this NBA draft, would be like a normal NBA draft starting at the 8th pick. Now, we know that the NBA draft has a tendency to be extremely top-heavy. At any normal draft, it is top-heavy. We're talking number 8. We're starting at the 8th pick of any draft. And now this is where we are tonight. So, you don't want to crap on these players. You don't want to crap on what they can do and what they're going to bring to the table. Bruce, what's going on, man? Welcome. You and I need to talk. Bruce is doing a show here, so you'll see a lot of Bruce coming up this summer. But this draft is not an interesting draft, and we're gonna tell you who gets drafted. Obviously, there's a lot of other big news. If you're a Knicks fan, there's gigantic news, especially that just came out about an hour and a half ago, on top of what happened last night. So there's a lot of other stuff going on that we will get to, as well as the draft. So those of you who are tuning in to get draft coverage, you're going to get that too. But you're also going to do a normal box out show as well, because to be completely honest, to be blunt, this draft is dog shit. As I welcome to Jason Cordner from Brooklyn, New York on that note. Jay, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. The draft is definitely dog shit. But I guess somebody's got to go number 1.
So right now, Atlanta's on the clock. They're projected to pick Zachary Rischer. I'm probably butchering the name, from France. Atlanta's interesting only because there's been so much conversation about Atlanta moving away from Trae Young going forward, and how Trae Young is not that guy. I think after the Hawks beat the Knicks in the playoffs a couple of years ago, everyone just thought, okay, the Hawks are here, and right. Trae Young, he's that dude. It hasn't worked out. Trae's shooting percentage actually kind of started going down. And it just seems like whoever he plays with, it doesn't work. And his game doesn't work. Is this a matter of maybe Atlanta going either trading to find someone to go with Trae, or then you know what? Maybe we'll get this person, they'll blow up, and we'll have something to pair with Dejounte Murray to trade Trae out.
I think Trae is more of a spot-up 3-point shooter. I wouldn't rely on him to be the playmaker. So I would build around Murray. Probably you get a big here in the first pick in the draft. You build around that way. Maybe send him to LA. I keep hearing rumbles that the Lakers might have need for Trey. Maybe get Austin Reeves in return, another playmaking wing. I think that's probably the best course of action for the Hawks. But I don't think clearly Murray and Young is not working in the backcourt. I would more so move off of Trey, not even because of trade value, but just because of I think cohesiveness within the roster. He doesn't fit. He doesn't fit there anymore.
Yeah, and they have a good coach in Quinn Snyder who came in, and I think this is Trey's third head coach.
Third head coach, yeah.
Third head coach it was Snyder now. It was Nate McMillan, and it was
I forgot who got fired for Nate. Oh man,
Lloyd. I can't remember his last name. Lloyd. I don't remember his first name. He was his first coach. He got fired, and Nate McMillan took over. They beat the Knicks in that playoff series. Nate ended up getting fired. They bring Quinn Snyder, who's a good coach. So obviously he's not the coaching. So we know it's not the coaching. It's Trey. And listen, I think Trey was a victim of his own success.
Early success.
He's hitting 30-foot threes. You could almost kind of compare him to Caitlin Clark in a way.
Say similar game.
Similar game. And you could see a little bit of that teammate resentment from on both ends too. So you kind of see a lot of similarities between the two of them.
Only Caitlin's passing a lot better than Trey ever has.
Well, Trey's never been a passer type guy. That's not his thing. So Hawks are on the clock. We'll keep you posted on that. We got to talk about the big news in our world, in Knick world. So last night, I'm just sitting here, I'm just working. I was watching the Mets beat the Yankees. I'm in a good mood last night. I'm feeling nice. And all of a sudden I get an alert on my phone that the Knicks traded for Mikal Bridges, a trade that you and I have been pushing for months. And it happened. Now, I have one issue with this trade, and I'll get to it in a second, but the trade right now is Mikal Bridges and a 2026 second-round pick goes to the Knicks. Goes to the Knicks. And then the Nets get former Net, forever Net, Bojan Bogdanovic, an unprotected first-round pick in 2025, 2027, 2029, 2031, an unprotected pick swap in 2028, a top 4 protected 2025 first-round pick from the Bucks, and a second-round pick in 2025. I texted you as soon as it happened. Said we got it. What were your thoughts when you heard about it?
I was like, holy shit. George Steinbrenner's rolling in his grave. Prokhorov is rolling in his grave. There's just no way. Like, I mean, we pushed for this trade for months, and I didn't think the Nets had the gall to pull this. But to the Knicks credit, they came to play ball. The Knicks gave them a king's ransom for Bridges, and what I liked about the trade more so was the trade we heard afterwards was the Nets getting back their original picks from Houston. So they're like, okay, next year's draft, we probably won't even have like a segue like this next year because it's so stacked with blue chippers. And the Nets now getting rid of Bridges, they pretty much guaranteed them a top 3 pick in the draft next year because I think they're going to be that awful. I think they're going to be them, Detroit, Washington. I don't know out west, but I think they're definitely going to be competing for that top 3 pick. So by them doing that, moving off of Bridges, probably moving off of Cam, they could probably get something if they maybe try to do a sign and trade with Nick Claxton. So they have assets now. Now all of a sudden they have 11 first-round picks. They flipped KD for 11 first-round picks in the next couple of years. So the Nets will be fine in the long run. I know the fan base is a little hurt right now, but this is about the Knicks. Look at the Nets being a good neighbor, helping their neighbors out. I think now the Knicks, I'm going to tag it now, call them wing stops with OG, and now Bridges. Now you got the wings, the stoppers. So I think the sky is the limit for the Knicks. The Nets will be fine in a couple of years. F them picks. The Knicks, remember I told you beginning of the year, they're a 50-win team now. Mm-hmm. I think this ensures that they're going to be a 50-win team for the next 3 years. So I wouldn't even worry about those picks down the line because they're going to be late 20s, anywhere between 25 and 20 and 30 anyway in the next couple of years. So those picks mean nothing. Everything, it's going to be fine. And what's more importantly now is what do they do with the center position?
Well, we're going to get to that. I'm going to go back to the Nets for a second because, the Nets did this before. Sean Marks did this before. He rebuilt this team from the KD.
He never got back his draft picks.
The KG Paul Pierce debacle trade. So he kind of rebuilt the team on the fly. No draft picks. He just got like guys like Alan Crabb to kind of come over and just eat some salary cap and help out. So they've done this before. My issue, and it's interesting because I want to say, was it might be Don LaGreca here in local radio in New York? He said he did it before, but then they just kind of stopped. They were building something. They had LeVert. They had Jared Allen. They had D'Angelo Russell. They had this kind of young nucleus with Kenny Atkinson, who got a new job. Congrats, Kenny.
Congrats.
And they kind of said, you know, we're gonna flip it and go big. We're gonna get Kyrie, we're gonna get KD, we're gonna get DeAndre, we're gonna go big. My thing was they had something going, and they got scared, and they went away from the plan. Do you think they go away from the plan again in like 2-3 years when maybe it's not going as fast as they want it to go?
I was gonna say no at the beginning of the show, but I'm gonna say yes for this reason. I think they see what the Knicks have done in terms of building a culture real fast. The Nets, I have faith that they know how to build cultures when they do it right. However, in a couple of years, it might be a bidding war between the Knicks, Philly, and now the Nets in terms of Embiid, Giannis, those guys. So if they become available in a couple of years, they'll have better assets to go get those guys more so than the Knicks, because I don't know if the Knicks want to break up their core, especially with everybody top 1 to 8 is under 30 years old. So I think the Nets will swing for the fence in a couple of years, but I think they're going to do it's going to be a rinse and repeat. They're going to build a slow culture quick, and then in 2 years they're going to go big game hunting.
All right, so the Hawks made their pick. They picked Zachary Vercher from France, 6'8" small forward. I printed out the ESPN scouting reports for these guys so we can read them. And here's his strengths right now. Put my glasses on. Versatile wing whose ability to shoot on the move, competitiveness and versatility defensively, overall feel for the game. Weaknesses: lacks ideal length and strength. While he shows ability as a passer and attacking open court, he is early in his development as a shot creator, playing a narrow role over the past season, leaving questions about his ability to soak up greater usage long term. I'm not sure if this is like a pick that is going to make an impact right away, because I feel like this draft is a draft full of guys who are not going to make an impact now. But do you
as I look at him, he does not look ready to play as a small forward, let alone a center or power forward.
Well, the theme you're going to see between him, Alex Sarr, Klingon from UConn, there's a lot of thinness. Even though Klingon's like 285, he's a skinny 285. There's a lot of thinness in this draft. Like you thought Wembanyama was small, was tiny and skinny. There's a lot of like lankiness in this draft. So he might take 2 years, 3 years to kind of get it together, figure it out, become a member, not like a member of the team, but become a contributing member of the team. But can the Hawks wait? Do they need him to be ready to go now? Or is like, we're willing to wait you out and figure out what to do with Trae Young and Murray and whether they re-sign Sadiq Bey. He's a small forward. Doesn't mean Sadiq Bey, who's a restricted free agent, do they not bring him back? So them making this pick kind of opens up a lot of questions about what their plan is, not just this year, but going forward next year, year after.
Yeah, I think they're definitely in like, I won't say rebuild because I don't think they're a bottom 4 in the East, but they're definitely like trying to find their identity. And they still got Clinton Capella, right? So I'm pretty sure he's gonna, maybe he's gonna take this young guy under his wing, show him a couple of moves. So I think it's a project. I think everyone agrees this draft is pretty much projects all over across the board.
I think the best phrase for this draft: projects. That's what it is.
Project.
We in the projects tonight. We in the projects tonight. We're not in Fifth Avenue. We down in Marcy tonight. Just picking up prospects right now. On the clock is Washington. They made a deal. They got an extra pick later on. They traded Deddy, who was drafted a couple years ago. We're like, why Washington? He's done nothing. I'm looking at Washington's roster. I want to bring it up, and we talk about tanking. This is a roster full of tanking. There seems to be no plan on Washington. Ever since John Wall left, and then Bradley Beal eventually left at some point, I guess they had to pull the trigger on that. What's the ultimate plan for the Washington Wizards, besides they're staying in D.C., not moving to Virginia, thank God? Where do they go now? Because I don't look at like Poole, Kuzma, Tyus Jones, who's a free agent, Marvin Bagley, Rashawn Holmes, Landry Shaman, who I forgot was still in the league. Denny's gone, Johnny Davis, Corey Kispert, who I would love on the Knicks, like a 3 who can like step out and shoot. there's like no theme to this team at all.
I think for the best case for the Wizards is like they need to like rebuild. Well, they are clearly rebuilding, but they need to hit on one of these drafts and find themselves their next Gilbert Arenas to make the franchise relevant again. Until then, they're no better than the Charlotte Hornets. Oh, yeah. The Poole got paid, so I don't know what he's going to do.
Oh, my mic is off. There you go. That was my fault. I'm talking this whole time. My mic is off. I was saying my dad said about Jordan Poole. I don't see anything about Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole is a product of playing for Golden State.
Poole thinks he's Dante DiVincenzo, but he's not Dante DiVincenzo.
I like that. I'm gonna write that down. Because you think about it, you're playing with Steph Curry, you're playing with Draymond Green, you're playing with Klay Thompson, you're playing with Kevon Looney. I'll put Looney in the conversation as well because he's a champion, repeat champion. Mm-hmm. And you're contributing. Are you a star of the team? No, because the stars of the team are those three guys. Right. But you're giving out 20 points a game. You're putting out good performances. But then you think that you're better than what you really are. Golden State paid him, which made him think even more like, oh, I'm really good. And then you get punched in the face and you get punked. And now you're in Washington, Siberia. You're stuck there. So Jordan Poole has nothing unless he shows me something next year. This year in Washington was him. Any Wizards game you watch, which was not many because they were never on TV. It was him looking for his own shot. It was him getting pissed off during timeouts when the coach didn't call his number. So that's what Jordan Poole is. That he's just that guy who's gonna get his buckets, and that's all he cares about.
Yep. It's sad. It's like, going to Washington is like equivalent to like when Blake Griffin went to Detroit. Out of sight, out of mind. We don't even see him on League Pass.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure I saw 2 Wizards games on TV, and I think they were NBA TV games.
Had to be NBA TV.
Yeah. And then you watch the random replays they have on NBA TV at 2 in the afternoon. That's what they played last night. All right, cool. And it's usually them getting blown out by the Lakers or someone else. Second pick of the draft, Alex Sarr from Australia, 6'11", 19 years old, strengths, a 9'2" standing reach, impressive mobility, quickness, and explosiveness. It gives him a rare upside as a rim protector and switch defender stepping on perimeter. Weaknesses, flashes of potential as a ball handler, passer and jump shooter, but he's still finding consistency with his toughness and feel for the game to complement his impact as a rim runner, pick and roll finisher, and versatile defender. His toughness is a problem. Now in the NBA, sorry, if your toughness is a question, that's going to be a problem. I think this is the same situation as Atlanta's pick. This is a wait-and-see guy. They got to give him a couple years and kind of just figure it all out.
But unlike Atlanta, I think he's going to get more playing time this season because Washington's in straight tank mode. So,
Washington's in tank mode for another 5 years, give or take. Maybe. And here's the thing, and we talked about the Nets before. We'll go back to the Knicks in a second. Tanking sounds great in theory, but you still have a lottery. It's not the NFL where if you're the worst record, you automatically get the first pick.
Right.
Look at Atlanta. Atlanta had a 3% chance to get the first pick of the draft, that they got it. Just because Brooklyn tanks, Washington tanks, is not a set thing because everyone's like, Brooklyn's tanking to get a high pick because, Cooper Flag is going to be out there next year. There's no guarantee they get the number 1 pick or even 2 or the second pick. So the idea that tanking works in the NBA, sometimes it doesn't. And I think this year showed that it's not a guaranteed thing.
I think they threw everyone off the scent this year. It's like, hey, let's give Atlanta the number 1 pick. This draft sucked. but next year we get back to business as usual.
Well, listen. When Atlanta got the pick, I was like, they got the number one. They were that close, and I looked at the percentages. I'm like, they weren't even close to the first pick. How did it even happen?
Well, remember, not even that, but also remember, Houston was 41 and 40. Was their 500 team, and they got the third pick. They got the Nets pick.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
There you go, Nets. Just messed it up. They did good last night, but they messed up before that. So Bruce made a good point, and we are shitting on this draft quite a lot. Role players getting drafted or the next Jokic. You never know. No one thought that Giannis would be Giannis. No one thought that Jokic would be Jokic. So obviously, there's chances that these guys would turn into the next great foreign player. I don't see it from these first two picks. Based on what I've seen, based on what I've read, I don't see it from these two guys. I could see it probably more so in Reed Sheppard from Kentucky. There's another guy that stuck out to me too that I kind of like, but hold on, what's his name?
No Bronny James?
Nikola Topic. He's a point guard, 6'5" point guard, 18 years old. He might act, if he gets drafted, he might stay put. But I see him coming over and kind of being like one of those diamonds in the rough. But these first two guys, I don't see it at all.
Yes,
what's about Bronny later? Because that this whole thing is getting stupid and how he's still a topic of conversation. Back to the Knicks. So they get Mikal Bridges, and in my head, I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, lineup. OG opted out. Okay, well, you might lose OG, but Brunson, DiVincenzo, Bridges, Randall, Mitch, or if we magically re-sign Hartenstein, cool, done. I was excited. Then it turns out, literally 6:20 tonight, OG intends to sign a 5-year, $212.5 million contract to return to the Knicks. So I wasn't even thinking about OG coming back, and now he's coming back. So now I'm shocked.
On a team friendly deal at that.
Yes. So I'm like, okay, Brunson, Bridges, OG, Randall, and Mitchell Robinson, because we can't re-sign Hartenstein now. I think that's
not too fast. He might take some off the top to run it back with the squad. If not, what if they move? I think they might move Mitch and free up some space.
I feel like the combination of them two works because Mitch gives you defense and the rebounding. Hartenstein's not as good as Mitchell offensively. Defensively. Rebounding, he's right there, but then Hartenstein gives you scoring as well. So I think you want to keep you got to keep them both because they have something. Like they have something to offer, and it's like a balance. Adam Silver's at the podium. Houston pick is in. Reed Sheppard from Kentucky, a John Calipari player. I wouldn't hold that against him because Calipari's no longer there. Strengths for Reed Sheppard. Sheppard, a 3-point sniper, rare basketball instincts, who had one of the most efficient offensive seasons in recent basketball history. He has a freshman at Kentucky. Weaknesses: he's a good athlete, but has an even wingspan that limits him as both a finisher in traffic and one-on-one defender. Despite his sparkling efficiency, he posted one of the lowest usage rates of any of the projected draft picks, and at times is unselfish to a fault. Listen, they're saying he's a slash. He's a combo guard. 6'1" and 3/4 does not sound like a combo guard to me at all. And listen, in Houston, it's another guard. They got a lot of guards down in Houston. How does he work with that rotation they have right now in Houston?
That's a tough rotation to crack. So it's either he's a chip asset that they might try to flip later on, or he's gonna have a hard time trying to get minutes, regardless, because Van Vliet, those guys, whose minutes is he taking up? And we know, and I think if they're really serious about Durant, this might be a pick that's on the move. Because I think
no. Don't talk about Durant yet. We're gonna get there later because I got something to say about that too.
I think this might be a piece that gets traded away. I don't see him fitting in the cracking that roster down in Houston. Because speaking of which, I think Dylan Brooks would punk him. Like the hazing will get to him. He looks like Dylan Brooks will get under his skin so fast.
Yeah, I can see Dylan Brooks treat him like they treat JJ Redick in Clipped. If you watch that show yet,
Yep.
I can see that happening.
He looks like the guy playing JJ Redick, man.
He does, right? He does. Bruce also made a good comparison. A shorter, but Reed is another Doug McDermott.
Great call, Bruce. He does look like him. Yep.
Just a lot shorter. I'm pretty sure McDermott's like 6'8". He's 6'1". Back to the Knicks. So they re-signed OG. They trade for Bridges. They still have Miles McBride on the bench. Alec Burks is a free agent.
Precious is restricted. Precious is probably gone.
What other moves are left? You think Isaiah willing to take a pay cut? I think that's the question.
Well, the thing is, I think the Knicks will only offer him $17 a year.
Yeah,
and there's reports that some teams are willing to offer, because you got to remember too, a lot of these teams have cap space, and we don't really know the market for centers. That's the key right there. Would he want to go to a bad team and get paid very well, or would he want to go to a contender like the Knicks or OKC, who could probably offer him 20? So it's going to come down to little things like that. I believe, because I don't think anyone's going to offer him $25 million a year. He might be on that market for like $20 million per season, and if Knicks can only offer 17 with incentives, maybe that might be enough to entice him to stay back, or maybe they move one of these draft picks. Maybe they figure out something. Maybe they sign Precious in a sign and trade deal. Who knows? Maybe I don't think the Knicks are done wheeling and dealing for the night.
Yeah, I feel like if it's a difference of $3 million, and this is just coming from a poor man like myself, who cares? It's $3 million. Like you can make 17 or 20. You can be competitive for 17, or you can go to Washington for 22.
F all that. Go join the roommates in their podcast and go get sponsors.
Listen, you get that sponsor money. That Blue Chew money's big now. That Blue Chew money is legit. I'm trying to get them on here now. If we get some Blue Chew,
there you go.
Not saying that we need Blue Chew, but I'm just saying, as a sponsor, I would appreciate getting some Blue Chew money. That's a lot of money right there. No, I think you're right. I think they're not done. I think them moving off of the Bogdanovich contract was big, and we said that when the season's over, that was a trade chip they had. And so, in addition to the many draft picks that Leon Rose accumulated, they had that expiring contract. Now, my question is, they're going to hit that second apron of the luxury tax, which is going to make it a bit worse for them next year when it comes to it. Future-wise, like, is this an all-in for the next 2 years, or do you think maybe there's a plan, like, maybe we get off of the Randall deal when it's over? We'll keep, like, is there 3D chess going on, or is this more like we're going all in now because we could beat the Celtics? All healthy, all in, we could have gave the Celtics some work.
Last season, without Bridges, they would have gave the Celtics a run. I think now it's a crapshoot. It's a real crapshoot in the best of 7 series. And I think what the Knicks should – I do think they're all in, not for this season, but the next few seasons. Because you got to remember, Brunson's underpaid. To some extent, Randall's underpaid. And I think they will definitely use the first half of the season as a litmus test to see how Randall bought in. If he doesn't buy in, they'll ship him out, and he has value. So that's an easy contract to move. So I think they're making themselves real. They're up front, they look like they spend a lot of money, but on the back end, they haven't. So I think as these things stretch out, I think Brunson will sign an extension on a team-friendly deal because they pretty much did all this for Brunson. Like, it's his team now. Yeah. So I think as long as he's willing to keep his guys together and do what it needs to be done for the organization, I think he will comply, and everyone, I think, will take a fair value. They'll take their cut, but they'll take a fair market value just to keep the band together. So I think they're constructed fine for the next 3 to 4 seasons easily.
Yeah, and I'm concerned. Well, like you said, team friendly deals. Brunson's gonna be like, hey, I want to win. I'm not worried about the money. Let's work something out. When Randall's up, he's not gonna take a team friendly deal because Randall's not that type of guy. DiVincenzo will. I think Josh Hart loves not just playing in New York, but playing with his boys. He's willing to stay. So I feel like
he's the new Starks. He's the new Starks.
It's even a matter of finding players that want to buy in. And listen, unfortunately, if you want to win, you got to take some money off the table. If you worry about money,
I think
Go to
that's the new
Sacramento.
NBA. I think going forward, the NBA is going to adapt the NFL's kind of model with the cap spaces, because I was reading somewhere tonight. I think the Knicks are paying less for like 1 through 8 than Phoenix is paying for the whole three. Their big three.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even then, Bridges was like $30 million cheaper than going after Paul George. So it's like, I think going forward, especially like teams like Boston, I think Boston will do that going forward. I think OKC, I think these new up and coming young teams will do that. They will take team friendly deals to keep the core together, because the era of the big three, I think that's done. I think you can't rely on paying 3 max guys and trying to, like how the Heat did back in the 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
You can't pay 3 guys max money and try to fill out a roster and try to compete. Those days are over.
Yeah, you can't get 3 guys and be like, hey, Mike Miller, Haslam, all these random guys, like, he's still here. Like, Rafer Alston. Is Rafer Alston available? Can we get him in here back up? Like, it doesn't work that way. Spurs, they select Stephen Castle from UConn, Big East Freshman of the Year. His strengths,
I know
Castle,
he's happy.
Excellent size and length for budding versatility on both ends of the floor. Competitiveness and unselfishness made him a key cog in UConn's championship run and gave him high floor at the next level. Here's a big weakness. Shot just 27% from beyond the arc, and his mechanics leave much to be desired, especially when shooting off the dribble. Castle's ability to space the floor would be a swing skill for him in the NBA. So he's a 6'5" guard who cannot shoot.
Hey, we've seen guys who came in the league who couldn't shoot, developed a shot. Guys, Pop is Pop. Pop will help him, take him from 25% to maybe 40%, or 25 to 35%. So I think he will definitely get the looks, because when they try to, with Wemby as his anchor, he's definitely going to get the looks. Pop, those guys, the Spurs, the culture, they'll bring him up a little bit. He's going to the perfect organization.
All right, so we got some news that came out a little under an hour ago from Brooklyn, about Brooklyn. Nick Claxton intends to sign a 4-year, $100 million contract to return to Brooklyn. So they trade Mikal Bridges. They re-sign Nick Claxton. So it looks like the team is going to be Claxton, Cam Johnson, Cam Thomas, Dennis Schroeder.
Spencer Dinwiddie still on the team, or he's a free agent?
Lakers, dude.
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to bring this up real quick because I'm curious. I actually don't like as much Brooklyn basketball I watched last year. I actually started to forget who was on the team because it seemed like there was.
Cam Thomas was a heater.
His point, Claxton chose money over winning. That's what we just talked about for the last 10 minutes. That's the perfect example. Claxton could have took his frame and went to OKC, who needs another big man. I'm sorry, I love Chet, but they need a second big man to go with Chet, who's a little more physical, because Chet's not that guy. But he chose to stay in Brooklyn. Ben Simmons,
that also kind of shows you what the market is for Hartenstein now. If he took 4 years at $25 million?
Yeah.
That means OKC's probably going to offer Hartenstein the same thing. Thanks, Nets.
But if he goes to OKC, he's not starting. So he's taking a lot of minutes. You got to give Chet 35 minutes, I feel like, a game.
Right.
So, and I feel like playing both of them at the same time wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work. Yeah.
So I don't know how that would work for OKC. But like you said, the market's set for centers now. $25 million a year is the market. That's the going rate for NBA center. Mm-hmm. I guess whether you're starting or not, you're going to get $25 million on top. Ben Simmons, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, who, and this is my only gripe about the trade between the Knicks and the Nets, to give up so much. I would have wanted someone like a Dorian Finney-Smith or there's another name that Noah Clowney, who I think was a young guy who's on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
Why couldn't we say, hey, we'll make this trade with you, right? We'll give you all this. We want Bridges. Give us Dorian Finney-Smith. I'm
surprised they didn't add another player, but maybe it's because of all the other movements they're trying to free up cap space. That's probably the only reason why they probably didn't ask for another player.
Yeah, Finney Smith is set to make 14.9 next year. So that's you're probably right. That's
Yeah.
Bridges is bringing 23.3 and 24.9 over the next 2 seasons. To add 14.9 and then a player option for 15 next year may not work very well. So that's a good point. All right, so Claxton stays put. The Nets, they're going to rebuild around with him and Cam Thomas and his ridiculous amount of shooting. I want to talk about JJ Redick, the new Lakers coach. Lakers got burned by Dan Hurley, which I kind of saw. I didn't realize this until they said it, I think, on First Take, which I try not to watch. But, when you're home, sometimes you got to watch it because it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Unless you're watching Matlock.
It's better than the alternative on Fox, I'll tell you that.
Listen, unless you're watching Matlock at 10 o'clock in the morning, ain't shit on. So that's what you got. It's First Take or Matlock. Did the Lakers lowball Hurley? Because it seemed like Monty Williams set the new market. And the Lakers went nowhere near, not even offered him Monty Williams money, but didn't even get close to Monty Williams money. It seemed like they lowballed a little bit.
I think they lowballed him a lot. And between that and the challenge of trying to repeat, I think that lured him to go back to UConn. I think he was enticed to take the Laker job, but I think they insulted his intelligence by that offer. Like you said, Monty set the market in terms of coaching.
And they just said, no, we're going to give you this much money. And he's like, I could go to UConn and get the same amount.
Right, because if they were that confident in JJ, they would offer JJ that money from the beginning. Because remember, it was all we heard was JJ Redick for most of the spring. And then at the 11th hour, we heard, hey, wait, they really like Hurley, and they're willing to give Hurley this and that. And then when he backed out, it went back to JJ. So that at that point, that's what they should have really given Hurley what he probably asked for.
So you have JJ Redick, first-time head coach, and a lot of older people made a big fuss about him using the F word a few times during the press conference. I didn't care. I think he did it more for show. I think he did it more for show than anything else. The choice pick is in. I might be a little behind on my end because I'm watching this on my computer. So if I'm behind, sorry, my bad, viewers. Detroit, their selection is Ron Holland, small forward from G League Ignite, 6'6.5". Strengths: Holland is a physical, aggressive, and versatile wing who scored prolifically in a challenging season of G League Ignite. Weaknesses: is poor decision-making and streakiness as a shooter were concerns that were amplified by his outsized role last season, but the 18-year-old has plenty of room to continue to improve. His season was cut short by a ruptured tendon in his right thumb, which forced him to miss the last 19 games. There's another Ignite player, and I'm going to get the name. Mattis Bazilis. He's also in here, too. He was 5 on the big board. Holland's 13, so he's way ahead of what the big board says.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the G League Ignite players coming in? One, knowing the team no longer exists. And two, it doesn't seem like, maybe besides Jalen Green, they haven't done a good job of creating players at G League.
They haven't. After, like you said, after Jalen Green, it's not. I wouldn't say bust, but it haven't been living up to the hype potential. That's what we thought. So we see the dominance from the foreign players, and even a couple of college guys that stayed more than 1 year. They seem to have developed faster than the G Leaguers, and I think that's a problem that I don't know how you can solve that. I think the problem is though, they need. We don't really know about the coaches in the G League, and I feel like I don't know what they're being thought of what to expect in the next level. It feels like it's more like a showcase more than a developmental system.
Well, you would think that the teams that Westchester Knicks should be playing the same style as the New York Knicks.
Right.
If you're the Santa Cruz Warriors, you usually run the same sets that Golden State run because you want to get those players ready to get promoted up.
Right.
Like you said, it's a showcase league. So you're not really doing anything that goes with the team. You're kind of just doing your own thing, and the coaches are doing their own thing, having their own ideas, which is great, but what does it have to do with the big team that you want your guys to be ready to be called up if injuries occur? It seems like they're just on
Right.
a whole different level. And if Ignite has been bad ever since it started. I feel like Ignite has not been successful. So I would be scared to take a player for Ignite because there's been no
track record. There's no nothing.
Yeah, perfect. There's no track record. There's no winning. There's no one coming out there saying, "Oh, this guy's from Ignite. Ignite has a good program." They canceled the team. There's a reason for that. They got rid of the damn team. Bruce, valid point. More losing for the Pistons, and they don't have a coach, so they got to figure that shit out too.
Oh, wait a minute. That's right. They didn't hire a coach before the draft.
No, they fired Monty, which I still feel bad about. I think Monty did not want that job. I think Monty took it for the money because the Pistons made a ridiculous offer, and he went to his family and said, "Hey, they're offering me this much money. What do you think?" And his family was like, "Take that bag, Dad." Okay, and he took the bag. He did not want that job. I can completely tell
he didn't want that job.
Back to JJ. Here's the question: will JJ Redick be a successful head coach?
I want to say yes because I think he does have a good basketball IQ, and it's not. I'm not talking about confidence. I'm not talking about being a solid role player, which he was, a solid collegiate player, which he was. I think, from what I gathered from the podcast, his X's and O's could be something that he would be better set on. If he was taking the Detroit job, I think they would have honed in and it would have been a better learning curve. Him going to the Lakers with LeBron and AD, I don't know. Especially, I think him and LeBron's like the same age. I don't know how much that they're going to buy in. And the way the Lakers roster is currently constructed, where it's not that many young guys, it's more like grizzly old veterans. I don't know if he's going to succeed in his first go-around. But if he went somewhere like Detroit or Washington, somewhere where there was just low expectations, he could have easily become the next Sean Marks. But because he's going to the Lakers, and we saw what they did to Frank Vogel, we saw what they did to Ham, we saw what their track record of doing if you do not produce early. I don't know.
And I think this is
not Joe Torre going to the Yankees.
Yeah, well, and Joe Torre had experience already. Joe Torre was a middling manager for years. So he was not successful at all. He just had to come to the Yankees and say, "Hey, we're giving you players. Show us what you can do." Exactly. We need a steady hand. Even though Buck Showalter was a good manager, I'm still pissed that they fired Buck before they won a championship. I'm just saying. I'm not a Yankee fan, but I think Buck Showalter's a good manager. Anyway.
Yep.
JJ Redick will be a bust. He seems narcissistic and a blowhard, just a con. I think someone called him a prick on the radio. I can't remember who did. But someone said
he reminds me of a young Pat Riley. That's what he reminds me of.
See, but Pat Riley was likable. JJ Redick just does not, and maybe it's the Duke thing, but JJ Redick does just not seem like a likable person.
I agree. But speaking of Duke, did you hear Coach K said he was the smartest player he ever coached?
Oh, Jesus. I thought Wojo was. Wojo seemed like the smartest player on that team.
He said JJ. I thought it was Sean Battier, but he said, "Hey, JJ."
Yeah, I guess. Like you said, if he had a no pressure job like a Detroit, like a Charlotte,
fly under the radar, nobody worries about you.
Exactly.
Build yourself up.
Now you got 2 years. I take that back. You have a year and a half. You have this upcoming season and half of the next season, and if not, the vultures are going to start flying. And that's just what it is. And Lord knows if Bronny gets drafted there and what kind of shit he's going to have to put up with that. So that's a whole nother conversation that has to be had because if Bronny James is drafted to the Lakers or signed as an undrafted free agent,
right.
I don't know what's going on with JJ. Charlotte's on the clock now. So Michael Jordan's not the owner anymore. We can't really shit on Michael Jordan being the owner. What if you're the owner GM of the Charlotte Hornets? What would you do to make this team not make them competitive? Because they're far from being competitive at this point. They're not even in the conversation. What do you do to this team to put some life into this fans and just make people give a shit about the Charlotte Hornets.
I think you got to slowly build. You got to get blue chippers. You know, I think. Did they bring back Bridges?
He's a free agent.
I think you bring him back. I think you draft the center from UConn right here with this pick, and you roll the dice with Melo Ball, and just
we have a counterpoint. Get rid of LaMelo.
I wouldn't get rid of LaMelo. I would not get rid of LaMelo. He's the only thing.
Devil's advocate.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably get a good haul for LaMelo Ball. If you want to start this over, you said you got to start. You got to start, get some blue chips and start over. Would that not be a good chip to have if you really look at the Nets? You got to have a chip to kind of go, okay, if we're going to do this, let's do it. Let's just blow it all up and start all over. Would that not be the first big chip for you to play and go, if you're going to start over, let's get rid of the biggest chip we got right now?
All right, but now you have to look for a trade partner. I can see him in Miami.
I feel like a lot of teams would get LaMelo. And LaMelo, he does play. And I feel like he had an attitude his rookie year, and I feel like he's matured. He's a mature player now.
I mean, I would have attitude too if Jordan telling me I'm shit and he could beat me one-on-one.
I know.
That's not the way an owner should conduct himself.
Yeah, well, listen. I still have stories about Kwame Brown getting drafted and Jordan just busting his ass and just popping shit. I'm like, you almost start feeling bad for Kwame Brown all these years later. Like, yeah, you did suck, but I feel bad for you though. I feel bad. They went his pick.
They went with a French guy.
Yep, to Jane Saloon. I think I got that right. Playing for Cholet in France. Strengths: a physically gifted power forward whose length, frame, budding versatility, and shot maker and defensive intensity stood out in his first professional opportunity in France. Weaknesses: while he shows the ability to make shots on the move, he lacks much in the way of ball handling ability and was inconsistent with his processing speed on both ends of the floor, as one might expect from a late blooming 18-year-old at this level of competition. So once again, this is the project. A lot of these guys are projects. I feel like of all the picks so far, the only non-project might be Reed Shepherd with Houston, who may not even be with Houston. He might be ready just based on the NBA game itself and how threes kind of dominate the NBA now. So everyone else, I think, is kind of just like, okay, we're gonna work and see what happens, and maybe stash them. Although I feel like if you're a top 10 pick, can you stash a pick overseas if you're top 10?
Well, you're right. You're right. I don't know. Knowing that next year's draft is loaded and you feel like you're not there to compete for a playing spot, let alone a playoff spot, then maybe you do stash him.
And Bruce, with the first pick in the 2025 draft.
That'll be the Nets. That'll be the Nets, Bruce.
Listen, it depends on how the balls go. It depends on how the balls turn. We gotta hope the balls go in certain directions. Maybe. But we got 3 French players going in the top 6 picks. Like, how is France just creating ball players? Is that the new, Serbia, the new Croatia?
Frank Ntilikina had inspired a nation. Frank Weiss getting dunked on over Vince Carter inspired a nation. That's why we got so many Frenchmen playing now.
I was hoping
they said, forget soccer, let's play basketball.
Forget Mbappe. Forget that. I was hoping to never hear Frank Ntilikina's name ever again.
Would he have got drafted? Would he have got drafted in this draft?
Yes. It's like top 10 because this is where we are now. Top 10. Let's just go with a defensive guard from France. Oh God, Frank Ntilikina. Portland Trailblazers 9 o'clock, 7 and 14. That's their picks in the first round. Bobby Mark says they need shooting and perimeter defenders. I feel like they need a whole lot more than that shit.
They need more than that. They need everything.
If you can really shrink down what they need to 2 things, that's not you're not doing your job correctly. They need a whole lot more than just those 2 things. So as you wait for their pick, I want to talk WNBA. The Liberty try to repeat the Commissioner's Cup last night, and they get upset by the Minnesota Lynx in Long Island. Just saying, they weren't in Brooklyn because that's what NBA draft is. Connecticut Sun went out west. They lost 2 games. The Aces, they got Chelsea Gray back. They're playing a little better. Who's the best team in the league now? Because I don't know. Because Connecticut looks. They look like a normal team now when they went out to Pacific Northwest. The Liberty lose to the Lynx, and the Lynx has a really good team. They played really well last night, and they shot the lights out last night. Who's the best team in the WNBA right now? Because I can't figure it out.
I want to say I still think it's the Liberties for these key reasons. A couple of the guys weren't hurt; they didn't play, and to their credit, they did play 3 games in 4 nights. They played Saturday, they played Sunday, and then they played Tuesday night. So maybe they were a little winded. It was a competitive game. It could have went either way down the stretch. I still want to say they're the better team once they get everybody back healthy. And I think the Aces are going to climb. They're going to climb the depth chart because now they're whole. So for now, I'm going to still say it's the Liberty, even though the Lynx have beat them twice this season already.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nafisa Collier and Bridget Charlton, they had a really big game, and I was expecting. I knew Collier would have a good game. Charlton kind of came out of nowhere and was just hitting threes over Sabrina the whole game. You saw Benijah Laney Hamilton came back last night. She looks rusty. She looked like she's still kind of getting her
first game back in a while. Yeah.
Jonquel Jones, I think she only had 2 points last night, and once I saw that stat line, I was like, "Wait, she only had 2 points?" And I think that was the problem. For some reason, they weren't getting the ball to her. I think she went like 0 for 3. She took 3 shots. You're not getting the ball inside to a player who's literally playing the best basketball since her MVP season.
Yeah.
You lost that game because you didn't do a good inside-out combination. You were just shooting. Brianna Stewart was shooting. Sabrina was shooting. Vandersloot was shooting. But Nigel Layden was shooting threes. They weren't even thinking about getting the ball inside the Jonquel.
But you know what? I'm kind of glad they lost because I didn't want to go back to Barclays and see 2 of those Commissioner Cup banners. You're really against in-season tournament banners. Yes, like seriously, we gotta maybe put a sticker on the court, but banners, no. I'll tell you, next time you go to Barclays, and you see that banner, it's gonna piss you off too. And we get a clear view of it on the press box, so it'll piss you off when you go back there.
Put a sticker on the court. Commissioner's Cup champion. Blazers select Donovan Clingan from UConn, 7'1", 285, which I think is a little heavy, but I don't think he's that big. But also a thin 285. Strengths, driving force for UConn's run, protecting the rim with his 7'7" wingspan, impressive timing and instincts, covering ground. Weaknesses, while he's a reliable finisher, offensive rebounder, he is still evolving as a scorer. He struggles to make free throws at a high rate and lacks a degree of explosiveness operating in traffic, which you need to, if you're a big man in the league, not only should you be able to step out and shoot, you have to kind of assert your dominance in the middle.
Yep.
And
100%.
Watching him play, and I saw a lot more UConn than any, besides Seton Hall, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely had trouble against bigger, more physical players, even smaller centers. Like, I know Seton Hall had a 6'8" center who just bodied him on multiple occasions when they played, especially the game that they beat UConn. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious. Bruce thinks he's going to be traded, which I could see because they have this.
I was about to say that. I was about to say because they're loaded at the center position already. No.
Let's look that up because I'm curious about Portland in general because I'm like, you knew they were going to be bad last year. You didn't know how bad they were going to be, and you definitely saw flashes of like, okay, there's something there. There's something there, but you didn't know what it was. But Chauncey is head coach. Listen, DeAndre Ayton had DeAndre Ayton. I mean, they're really only like Jeremy Grant could play the center. He could play 4 or 5, so I feel like you probably play him at the 4 more. He's making, oh my God, Jeremy Grant's making 29.7 next year. And then 32. And then 32. and then 34.2, and then 36.4 player option.
Good luck with
Robert
that.
Williams,
That
thank you.
contract.
Robert Williams. Bruce mentioned Robert Williams. I see him here, but he said it always hurt, so you can't depend on Robert Williams at all. So I'm thinking of trade proposals in my head now, which is a bad idea because I'm in my head thinking like, what could happen? All right, back to the WNBA conversation. So Bruce believes that John Cole Jones is soft. I disagree wholeheartedly.
I disagree.
The Aces are still killers. He stands by the Aces, and I think, listen, they have some injuries, and I think when you have a team that went back to back, I feel like you're going to get every team's best game.
Yep.
So you're already down a couple players, and then you get everybody's best shot. It was good. They were bound to have a terrible start to the season, I think.
Yeah.
And I think they're starting to figure it out. I think Becky Hammond is probably the best person for this team right now. I think Becky Hammond is probably the most perfect coach.
Yep.
NBA, WNBA to handle a situation where you're a two-time defending champion, you're 6-6. And everyone's like, what is wrong with Shaw? What's the problem? So
what's the problem?
I'm still gonna go Connecticut is the best team right now. I think they do have trouble scoring. Bruce mentioned in the chat too, they have trouble scoring. I think they do have trouble scoring on multiple occasions. There's times where they can go 6-7 minutes without a bucket. The Liberty is first in league. I think it's the Sun. I think it's the
You don't want to say Aces. You don't want to say Lynx.
I'm gonna go Sun, Lynx, Liberty. Those are my top three right now.
Okay.
And it pains me to say that. It pains me to say that, but I think the Lynx last night kind of they had a point to prove last night, and they did it.
Right.
In hostile environment. UBS was popping. I'm not sure if you watched the game on Prime. UBS was loud, and I wasn't expecting it because they moved the game from Brooklyn, but they came out for the Liberty.
It didn't even dawn on me that the game was played out there instead of Barkley because of the draft. I just didn't want to make the troop out to Long Island. I was so against it. I
mean, listen, AEW's gonna be there, and I'm like, I can't do it on Sunday. I'm like, I want to, but it's Long Island. I can't. I can't. It's too damn far.
It's not just Long Island. It's deep in Long Island. It's like on the other side. Ain't nothing around.
It's like doing it. Was like the arena? It's like a bunch of houses.
Yep.
The arena, and the track,
and the track that's being renovated behind it. Because they even have Belmont there. They even had the Belmont race here. They had it upstate.
It was in Saratoga, yeah.
Yep.
Seattle 10-6, Vegas in 8-6, Phoenix 8-8, Atlanta 6-9. We're going all the way down to the bottom. Dallas 3-13. I'm completely out on Dallas Wings forever and ever. I'm never going to mention them at the start of a preview ever again in the season.
Oh yeah,
they are dead to me. I'm not going to put no more money on Dallas Wings from the rest of my life. They disappoint me every single. They're like the Sacramento Kings to me right now.
Oh, not Sacramento.
That's where I'm at. Like, no, I'm never picking out again. Indiana 7-11. I will say this about Indiana: they're getting together. They're trying to figure it out.
They are.
But Chicago on Sunday afternoon. Listen, Chicago got some dogs, and I think Chicago going forward with Angel Reese, I think they're going to make the playoffs this year, and I think they're going to be one of those teams that nobody's going to want to play because they're going to.
I would not want to see the Liberty play them in the first round. I would not want to see that.
I think they're going to get them. Someone's going to punch them in the mouth, and they're going to like it. The Spurs also picked Rob Dillingham from Kentucky, another Kentucky player, dynamic scoring guard, combination of shiftiness, ball handling, passing, and shot making prowess. Averaged 15 points a game on 23 minutes. His weaknesses: lacks ideal size and physicality to absorb contact in the lane and hold his own defensively. He only has a 6'3" frame and 170 pounds. He looks like you. This kind of looks like Lupe Fiasco.
He does. God, these guys looking younger and smaller every year.
No, I could have covered this tonight, but I just couldn't be around a bunch of 18-year-olds. Like, I can't stand y'all. I can't stand any of you. Y'all look nice. Y'all young. Got your whole lives ahead of you. I mean, unless you go to San Antonio, then you just you're stuck in San Antonio doing nothing.
Stuck in San Antonio, yeah.
At
least you got to play with Wemby. At least you got to play with Wemby.
Well, it's gonna be interesting to see how this works out too, because the one thing they were missing a lot of was they needed better shooting last year for Wemby.
Right.
Dillingham may not be that shooter that they should really have, but I don't see what they do in free agency. I'm more concerned about who they pick up and who they kind of add to, Wemby and all those other random pieces they got in San Antonio. Because that's what it is. It's a bunch of random ass pieces.
You mean guys like Alex Burke?
I can see Alex Burke going there and being like a tutor. Bruce mentioned the Sky needs a guard. So looking at their roster, you could say Jenny Carter could be. You have Carter, you have the Shields. Marina Mabry could be an option. I do feel like they're all shooting guards though in Chicago. So you have your inside for Chicago with Cardozo and Reese. You're set. I think the guard is going to be a problem for them. I think if you can find a point guard to go with your inside game for Chicago, they're going to be even better. I think this is where the draft comes in. I think Chicago and I think Indiana, I'll be picking high again. I want Chicago to make the playoffs, but I just don't see it because they're too streaky. And Spoon's a first-year coach, so I feel like she's kind of learning on the fly a little bit.
She's learning on the fly, yep.
So I want them to make the playoffs. Like I said before, they're going to make the playoffs. I want them to, but I feel like they're not. I feel like they're going to be overtaken by someone else.
But who below them you don't think it's going to overtake them besides Vegas?
Well, right now it's them in Indiana. I think them in Indiana kind of going back and forth for that last spot.
I think Indiana might overtake them.
Because right now
they start off really hard the schedule, so I think Indiana they're gelling at the right time now.
So right now it's Liberty, Sun, Lynx, Storm, Aces, Mercury, Atlanta, Chicago's in the final playoff spot. Indiana's a half game behind them.
Okay.
So really it's just those two teams because in the Sparks, the Mystics, and Dallas, you can kind of shoot them out and say we don't care about
yep.
So I think that's gonna be the key right now. It's gonna be between Indiana and Chicago, and I don't think they play again the rest of the year. I think they've played.
I feel like they played 3 times already.
Yes, I think they're done. So essentially, head to head's done. So they just will have to go back and forth. This is black. This damn Bruce. Jonquel Jones will be killed by Angel Reese. No way. No. Put Jonquel Jones one-on-one Angel Reese. Jonquel Jones. Well, no.
Barbecue Cajun chicken.
No. Damn it, Bruce. This is why Bruce is his own show, so he can spread this propaganda on his own time and not have any rebuttals from anyone else. Just spread this propaganda. Memphis on the clock. Memphis is an interesting team because I don't know. They struggle without John Morant. They're not a bad team, but I think they just had injuries and Morant was just a mess the last year and a half. So,
yeah.
What do you say about Memphis?
I think they're a lot closer than people think to getting them back together. Okay, they got Zach Edney from Purdue.
Zach Edney from Purdue.
I like his game.
Looking up his information. 16 on the big board. One of the biggest and most productive players the sport has ever seen, which is huge. 7'11" wingspan, 9'7" standing reach, level of physicality, conditioning, confidence. Weakness. His speed will always be under the microscope defensively, and on offense, he will need to be used consistently by a coach who's willing to take advantage of Edey's unique mismatch potential. How does Zach Edey work with John Morant, you think?
I think it'll work. It'll definitely pick and roll. I think it'll work, and I think as long as Zach picks up the speed, learns the pace, I think he'll be fine with Ja. I think Ja's gonna have a killer season next year.
A killer season?
Damn, my word. But to his credit, he's been forgotten. People was ready to anoint him the next big thing, and now, so I think he's gonna have a bounce back season.
Here's my issue with Zach Edey, and I think this is where I think the NBA you're trying to figure out exactly what the position of center, what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Edey is not today's center.
The center, right? He's not today's center.
So how does that work in a league where there's a lot of threes, a lot of spacing out, a lot of stretch centers stepping out, hitting threes, and you have a guy who literally just lives in the post? Like,
be a poor man's Hartenstein.
Yeah, but is he a good shooter? I don't think he's an okay shooter, Zach Edey. I don't think he's going to go out there and hit 20-footers consistently. I think that's going to be the key to this thing. They got to figure out, like, where's the best place to put him. Josh shoots, but Josh also drives to the basket a lot. Josh needs that lane. He needs that lane open. If Zach Edey's standing right there in his way, that's going to be an issue. So I feel like you got to figure out how it's going to work, how it's going to play. Like I said, Memphis uses a lot of threes, but Ja likes to drive to the basket more so than a lot of guards in the NBA. So I want to see how that works, if anything. There was a trade. Dillingham was traded to the Wolves. So he said Dillingham might get traded. He's getting traded. So he's going to Minnesota. I'm trying to think. We're on pick 10 on Utah. And Jason and I agreed we would stop after pick 10 because I feel like no one gives a shit now. Now we're at who cares? So I know the Knicks picked 23rd and 24th.
23rd, 24th.
So they picked late. So obviously we're not gonna be here for that. What do you see them doing with those picks? Who do you like? All right. Better question. Will these guys make any kind of impact on this team this year?
If we do pick them, we might have a chance to get back to the Summer League championship game.
Put a banner up at the Garden for Summer League. We can do that too.
Summer League. We can do that too, yeah. But I think if they do make these picks, they're not long for the Garden as members of the Knickerbockers.
So what you're saying is they're longing for the Westchester Civic Center.
100%. Stash them and dash them, maybe. Stash them and dash them.
Utah's pick is in. Who went back to the original old designs of jerseys? So I was very happy.
Which
about
I
that.
like. I like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They select Cody Williams from Colorado, a wing. Look for his name on this big board because I feel like the big board is all over the place now.
Good for him. Not too far from where he was just playing.
Williams is a rangy perimeter player whose size, length, and flashes of transition scoring, playmaking, and defensive versatility give him intriguing upside. Lacking a degree of strength, perimeter shooting, and all-around consistency, Williams struggled to produce late in his freshman season as he was hampered by injuries after a promising start. So Utah is kind of on that rise too. Danny Ainge went there, pretty much did exactly what he did in Boston, said, we're going to trade our best player, get picks, and just start all over again. So
I didn't realize that was Jalen. His brother plays for OKC. I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm. So first Colorado freshman. A lot of freshmen tonight, a lot of 18-year-olds. Kind of curious to see how this is all going to work out in the end. Listen, another draft night. We're done. How you feel?
We've done a lot of these. It feels good to know the Knicks are finally on the right end of these draft nights.
It feels good to know that we got their whole over an hour of this because I was scared going into this. Free agency starts on Sunday, so that will be our next show. The next box out will be Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We will be here to talk about the first day of free agency. We already have some moves already done. Yep. So we have Claxton returning to the Nets, OG returning to the Knicks, and then Pascal Siakam is going back to Indiana. That was announced. So we got a couple moves. This is not a great free agency class. Like there's no one unless someone opts out magically. It's not going to be crazy, but it's going to be interesting to see kind of how it shakes out on Sunday.
Yep.
So we'll be back Sunday night, 8 p.m. The next box out, and after that, sporadically. I know Bruce is going to start here very soon, so I'm hyped about Bruce's show and him spreading his propaganda to the world on our channel.
Love it.
We'll see what happens. So for Jason, I'm Kahlil. Thanks so much for watching. Draft night. We went an hour 10. I'm very proud of us. We're an hour 10 minutes in the weakest draft in 30 years. For Jason Cordner, I'm Kahlil Thomas. Thanks so much for watching, listening. We'll see you on Sunday. Free agency.
Let's get it. Peace.
This has been The Box Out with Kahlil Thomas and Jason Cordner. Subscribe now for the best tri-state area basketball talk.